So anyways, as Apex Legends adding their legends into classes, Battlefield is adding their operators into classes. Yay, class system is back. Hallelujah, Battlefield is saved. Battlefield 2042 is the best game out there.
Yeah,
Am I right?
No.
Am I right? It's
God,
the best
no.
game ever now. What do you mean, Ray? It's Battlefield is saved. It's Battlefield. Fucking love it.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry to say it, kids. It's you want to know how my honest to God, at the end of the day, opinions on it. Okay, I have mostly forgotten 2042. If I'm going to be completely honest, like it's still installed on my computer. It's not like I never uninstalled it or anything. I just forgot it existed. Okay, Tom mentioned something to me about picking it up again because of the patch that was coming, and I went, okay, well, cool. You know, classes are being added. Woohoo! Yay! And when I fired it up and I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's still specialists, but just with one new thing added. And I played 3 rounds and then went back to forgetting it again.
Thing is, I had a chance to play with the classes before the update dropped, thanks EA. And it was a better experience with classes, because every class has, like, you know, their special gadget. You know, medics have a...
They have their special gadgets and their weapon proficiencies that, you know, upgrade. So if you, like, I think what it is an assault class has to run an SMG now in order to get better draw speed and some shit like that.
It doesn't punish you if you run a different class, a different weapon for the class, but it gives you a boost in that particular class.
It buffs you if you do, yeah. I like that. So I mean, I'm not gonna send that, but at the same time, it's still mostly forgettable to me. I'm sorry to say it, kids. It really is. It's mostly fucking forgettable to me.
Yeah, like, game feels better with classes, but at the end of the day, you have to design those classes around the specialist. You know, you have to put specialists into classes, and that kind of, you know,
and you've got to like completely revamp everything now, and like it's. I don't know. I'm not the fan. I'm not a fan of it. I'm just being blatantly honest here. I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Thing is, it's just...
but then again, I'm also more of a traditionalist. I kind of wish it would be back to what it originally was, and I don't like specialists. I think that's mainly what it is. I just don't like the specialists still.
Yeah, Battlefield 2042, let's be honest. It doesn't matter what kind of changes they do. You know, class system is fantastic. It's a positive change. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing change. And the changes they did for the vehicles, for example, for the tanks, amazing changes. Like, I've been crying...
Oh, yeah, that new tank that they added, that shit's fucking baller. That siege mode and everything that it has, I love that damn thing. Don't get me wrong, but that's not enough for me to be like, all right, I'm going to pick it up and play it every day.
Yeah, like, so they added some really good changes. The game is, like, feels better. But at the end of the day, the core of the game is still the same. It's still the same foundation. Yeah, it feels tolerable now with classes. It makes it feel like a Battlefield game. And the vehicle changes they did, you know, the gameplay mechanics for the vehicles, like, they finally added active protection system. They finally added that, Mad Lads, you know.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that too, and I was like, no shit, wow.
Yeah, Mad Lads.
I was missing that too.
Should have been originally on the launch day, but I'm glad we finally there.
Yay!
Yeah, so here's the thing. The game is in a... Okay. In a vacuum, the game is in a good state right now. In a vacuum. But when you look at the bigger picture, it's a little too late, you know?
It is.
It's too
little too late, and we'd figured that this was going to be the problem with these forthcoming updates, because I had said it when I finally got my hands on, you know, 2042. It's not enough for me in order to want to keep coming back. I haven't heard... Has there even been any new maps added? I don't know.
One new map every season.
So, all right. So, I mean, I've barely noticed that. I've barely heard of it.
Well,
you know, any weapon additions or anything that's been going on, I've barely even noticed any of it.
Well, I did mention in my video about Battlefield, it's like the maps when they came out, like when the game came out, and the vanilla maps that you could play in the game were definitely the worst maps you could ever play in a Battlefield game. These were the worst maps that ever come out in a Battlefield game on launch day. These are the worst. Like, there's no denying, these were the worst maps. And because they were doing redesigns on every map, like, have you ever seen a video game, a AAA shooter, redesigning their launch maps to make them more tolerable? You know, like, for example, the new Breakaway map, the snow map. That's a complete redesign of the map. Like, it's a completely different map now.
Didn't know.
Yeah, it feels bad. Though it plays bad. Like, it's a great... Like, it's an amazing change. But... So all these changes that have been made to the maps are kind of being pushed as content, you know. Oh, we redesigned this map, and then this coming out this time, and... It's just... It's being pushed as content, and... I'm glad you're fixing the game. I'm glad. But what?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm glad that work's being put into it, but it's to me, for somebody who just was not excited at all when it came out, and to somebody now who hasn't really seen much in, I would arguably say, fair content for me in order to want to pick it up and play it on a religious basis and start, possibly sinking money into investing it. I just don't see I don't see it, because in my mind, I know inevitably a shoe is going to drop and the plug's going to get pulled, and it's probably going to happen in the next year or two. So
no, dude. I already predicting, and I think it's pretty obvious because they haven't said anything yet. They announced season 5, right? So you know how we talked about they have to provide the legally required seasons for the player base, right? Because they sold that. They sold the battle passes for that. So they had to provide those 4 seasons. And that's said on the podcast. I can't remember which episode, like maybe 7, 8 episodes back when we talked about Battlefield. I did say they will provide the legally required seasons, right? And they will add...
And then that's it.
No, they will add like a season or 2 as a nice... what's the word? I don't know how to describe it. Gesture, maybe. Like, just to leave the game in a good, decent state, you know? Like, you know how Battlefield 4 was, like, horrible when it came out. Like, it was atrocious. But the reason people remember Battlefield 4 as good as it is right now, when people talk about Battlefield 4, you hear positive things. But it's like people forgot that the game came out really shitty state. And the reason people remember in a good state is because CTE was a thing back then, and you were getting free maps. With good maps in that matter. You got your Zavod Night map, you got your community map that was, fresh new map. Then you got a Battlefield 2 remake map, Dragon's Valley, what it was called, I can't remember. So people remember that because they did good changes and everything, and the game is in a good state. So it's kind of the same thing. So they will provide the 4 seasons, right? And they will add or 2, that's why I said, like, on the podcast, they will add a season or 2 of extra content just to leave it in a good state and call it a day. It's not going to be even a season or 2. It's going to be 1 season because they announced, was it 2 months ago maybe? They announced they're working on season 5. I'm like, people got excited, like, okay, so the game is not being abandoned. Problem is, they announced season 5, not year 2. See, people don't really catch that. Like, they read through their blog, right, of their blog, and people, oh yeah, season 5, the game is not abandoned yet. They're like, yay, future content and year 2. They never said year 2.
Never said anything about year 2.
Yeah, they never said year 2. They said season 5. And in season 5, apparently, it's gonna be a Battlefield 4 map. It's not a remaster because it has to. People thought it's gonna be a proper remaster, but then DICE clarified that no, it's not a remaster because we have to remake it because 128 players. You can't squeeze 128 players on a Battlefield 4 map because
no, hell no, they're not. No, they're not designed at their core in order to handle that kind of player base. So no, don't know.
So the way they sold the idea is like it's a Battlefield 4 map, but it's reimagined and redesigned. How it's in the future. Because it's 2042 and it's a sequel to Battlefield 4. So how the map looks 20 years later. I kind of, that's interesting though, because like
I'm curious as to which one they're gonna go with.
They did
because,
say
Caspian makes the most sense.
They said
so
Battlefield 4.
Golmud.
They said
so. It would probably be Golmud because think about it. For them in order to pull this off, they're gonna need a map that is already pretty wide open and expansive to begin with. Now, the first map that comes to my mind when I think of that is Golmud. Golmud had a lot of empty space outside of the boundaries to it, for fighter jet combat and stuff like that. So if you think about it, I'm going to put my money on. I think they're going to remake Golmud. I really do.
People they mentioned
it was popular. It was a popular map.
Yeah, they mentioned that the map is gonna be like, oh, it's absorbed like with foliage and everything, and people's like, oh, there must be Zavod or something like that. What
Zavod is another one. Yeah, I
what
can
other green
imagine
maps? What other green maps you have, or Rogue Transmission or Zavod or
yeah, there's another one. Rogue is another good one too. Shit, so there's 3 maps already that come to mind when I think they could do it. I mean, hell, they could. I really wish they would just do all 3 of them, but nah.
I was going with the community map actually, with the jungle map. That
would make sense too.
Like, if you take that map and you redesign, like, keep in mind they can't just take the map, and just plug it into the game. So
they can't just take the map, plug it in, and expand the combat boundaries and go, that's it, kids. No,
they're making this map from scratch. So they're making this map from scratch. Ooh, sorry, I'm drinking a lot of water for the last 2 hours.
Ooh.
So yeah, drink, people, stay hydrated.
Hydrated.
But yeah, they're remaking the map because they're making this map from scratch, and I'm really that's an idea that's really interesting. It's not just a remaster, It's not just like, oh, changing the visual, something like that. You have to design a new map.
Update.
You take this old map and you have to repurpose it, redesign it to accommodate double the player numbers. I really looking forward to that. See, fam, like if this was Portal. If Portal was a separate game, and every season you get like a Battlefield map, a remaster, but redesigned for 120 watt players. Like, imagine you play Siege of Shanghai, redesigned for 128 players. Then you play Golmud for 128 players. Instead of a desert, now it's a jungle or some shit. God fucking knows. Because it's climate change and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So the idea of itself sounds really cool. I am really looking forward to that. So, going back on the legally required seasons. So they will do their seasons. Season 5 is going to be the last season. Leave it with the Battlefield 4 remaster. Battlefield 4 map, whatever, redesign, some sort of map, right? People will love it. They're going to enjoy it. They leave the game in a good state. Because you have your classes, you have your vehicles like somewhat balanced. Somewhat. And then you're gonna get like small updates there and there. But the whole majority of the development team that is still working on Battlefield 2042 will move to the next project. That's just a given. Because I checked the player numbers. Remember when there was like a free weekend when the game came out on Game Pass?
Yeah.
So there was like 40,000, people on Steam alone playing the game. That's not including Origin and all that kind of stuff. And consoles, of course. So that's a lot of players. But of course, guess what the player numbers now are on Steam again?
I don't know.
Like, it's back to 5,000, 10,000, It's not much. It's back to regular as it was before the free weekend started. So people were saying like, oh, it's gonna gain a new audience, like it will bump the player base because new people are joining. No. Nothing changed. Because people realize it's still the same game.
Yeah.
They should probably drop the free weekend when the classes were dropped.
That would have made the most sense. It would make a lot of sense for them in order to do that now. I 100% agree. The sad thing is they won't.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for the game to continue because it's just like, okay, it has on Steam alone, it has 7,000, almost 8,000 players, which is fine, but I know that's not what EA is aiming for. Also, you have to remember the budgets are everything allocated ahead of time, So it's not like Battlefield classes will come out and suddenly you get 20,000. Extra players or anything like that, and suddenly change your plans. I mean, sure, it can be changed, but now stuff like that is being planned like a year ahead, months ahead. Even if Battlefield gets a really, really, really big player number, jump, more players, it's not gonna bring the game back. DICE has already moved on. They already have the plan. They did, finish the season 5 content and just move on to the next development. Next game.
Yeah. I mean. Welcome to the wonderful world we live in.
Yeah. I mean, as I played the game for the video to record, all that kind of stuff. Game feels fine. It's just missed opportunity. It's just missed opportunity. And I really, really want to know what kind of development problems they had. And I went through a lot of interviews. I went through a lot, videos and everything with the developers. Interviews from developers and publishers, like just to understand what happened to this game. And remember, Ray, I linked to a podcast where one of former EA developers was telling about Battlefield, and he talked about how there was like a bug or something like that where the game was eating a lot of memory. Like they never understood why game was eating a lot of memory. And it's something to do with the tank icons. So when you spawn the tank icon, the HUD element, was eating so much memory, apparently was crashing the game or something like that.
That's fucking wild.
It's game development, it's wild. But
that is some wild shit. Like you said, game development is fucking wild and sometimes seemingly incredibly random. And that's why I have a lot of respect for the people who make that stuff, because there's problems that come up that you would never fucking anticipate, that are tied to things that you would never fucking think of. And so props to people who do that. That's insane, though. I didn't realize. I completely forgotten. Yeah, that a fucking icon, and which is probably at the end of the day is just a goddamn PNG file. It's causing that much of an issue.
God knows what happened, but that's the problems they have to deal with, And here's the thing: I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with it, because gaming industry is very, very, quiet.
They're hush hush.
Yeah, hush
They're very quiet about how they do things and what, because God forbid somebody God forbid your competition figures out finds out how you solved a problem. Seriously?
No, but it's not a good argument, because game development is so fucking different. Everyone has their own different engines and everything. It just makes no sense. Also, what about Unreal Engine? Let's say Battlefield switches to Unreal Engine. Oh, sorry, you're not gonna talk how you solved a problem? Okay, let me Google quickly on YouTube how to solve this problem in Unreal Engine. Why is this a problem? Why is this has to be a corporate secret? I don't understand.
I don't either.
And I
don't get it.
Yeah, and this is why people players and player bases, gamers and everything, what you want to call them, they get mad at something that doesn't work, and then there's a snarky developer comes in saying, "Oh, you don't know how it's done." Well, explain that to me. But I can't, because NDA. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. It's kind of like a snake eating itself, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, it's like everyone is secretive. No one wants to explain shit, and of course, there's also argument. Oh, when developers explain something, people get mad. Yeah, douchebags get mad, but normal, reasonable people are like, okay, understandable.
Yeah, we're not gonna get.
Who gives a shit about some idiots losing the shit or on Twitter or Reddit? Who gives a fucking fuck? They're still gonna play the game.
I get it. Negative attention is not necessarily good attention, or you know what I mean. So I kind of get why Reddit gets as much attention as a critique factory as what it does, because it is very, it is a very high concentration of users and voices. But the thing is they're not verified users.
No.
You know what I mean? There's no way there's no way through Reddit in order to verify whether somebody's actually playing the game or not, or just slamming it for the sheer sake of trolling. You know what I mean? No, that's one thing that I missed about Battlelog. Because for the most part, you could assume that anybody and everybody who was complaining in those forums were fucking users, and you could verify that they were actually critiquing based off of actually playing the game. Reddit, you don't have that, and I don't understand. Just based off of that metric alone, why everyone goes, well, Reddit's got the final say on critique and everything. And it's like, well, you don't even know if half those people even actually interacted with your product, and you're taking their critique seriously. It's like, you shouldn't.
And yeah, not to mention personally in some cases, because
Can I honestly comment on the handling aspects of a fucking Lamborghini Gallardo, having never driven one? Seriously.
Well, if you understand the cars, No, but
you should just be able to presume. No, but that's not how it works. That's not movie review. And this shit is pertinent in all forms of entertainment. It's not just video gaming. I mean, it's all sorts of reviews. Fucking Yelp. There are restaurants that probably getting slammed on Yelp, and motherfuckers probably have never even been there.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Google reviews. How many times has a place gone up on the news for doing something stupid or doing something, and then all of a sudden they get fucking review bombed by people who have never fucking been there?
Yeah.
Like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, how can you even get honest critique from other sources these days, other than ones that you know for a fact they have actually interacted with your product or your service?
Yeah, review bombing is a really huge issue that I don't know how to fix. But the
verified users.
But the
verify it.
But the reason,
I mean, honestly, is it really that hard? Like, you want to review a movie on Rotten Tomatoes? Fine, send me a fucking scan of your ticket stub, or give me the receipt number from wherever you bought your ticket from. That way, the producers can verify whether you actually saw the fucking movie at least, or at least you paid to sit through it. Video games, okay? You have forums. Go back to having forums for specific games. Deal with the fact that has to be maintained. At the very least, at the end of the day, you know everybody who has access to that forums at least has an account through you, and have a flag on the moderation side of it, whether the player owns the game or not. Steam could do this. Steam already does this, actually.
Yeah.
Steam does this.
But even Steam does review bombing for no fucking reason. Sometimes.
But yeah. I mean, I'm not one to say that Steam is immune to review bombing. It does happen too. But if you go through reviews now, you can see somebody's playtime, that they've actually played it, how long they've played it, so that you can say, okay, well, this dude only spent a half hour and he's fucking raging at this game. Clearly he couldn't figure something out or something wasn't right. But if you start seeing multiples of that, half hour bad feedback, then there has to be something game breaking that happens in that half hour. It can't just be that somebody's not figuring it out, and based on how snarky they reviewed it, they're getting all the upvotes and they're getting all the attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I will take the review of somebody who has played a game for 1,000 hours far more fucking seriously than somebody who has played it for 1,000 minutes.
Yeah, even if the 1,000-hour player is a fucking cunt, as long as if you filter through that hatred, and that stupid nonsense, if you filter through it, you can find some good feedback there. And that's the thing I don't understand people that, oh, he's being toxic. Yeah, we agree. That particular person is being toxic. We fully agree. He's a toxic piece of shit. But just try to filter through the toxicity and find the feedback you're looking for. Because sometimes people don't realize, like, yeah, he's a piece of shit. But if you go through it, you can find the feedback you're looking for. And then forget about him. Because he's just one of the other people that feel like that, but people are less expressive. Other people are less expressive. That's it. It's just Battlefield. It's just Battlefield.
The things it does to us.
Yeah, the things it does to us.